So it's been a while since I have posted a video, and on Living as Myself podcast, I want to make sure that whoever's watching gets an accurate read or an accurate message that's going to help them in their lives. So this last time, I have done a lot of introspection on the concept of ego, and I am yet again putting another shift in my channel, and I wanted to share with you the process in which that I've learned what I've learned in this last stretch of my journey, which is all of the trials and the tribulations that I've had this entire time doing this channel, and even obviously far before that. And it's like, I want to show you who I really am. I want to show you how I've gotten to where I've gotten to, and it's not always perfect, and it's not always so scripted. And I edited my videos, I made it seem a lot more perfect than what it really is, and I'm not that perfect in real life. So, yeah. Surprise, surprise, I'm not here to just tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear. And I've been having a lot of ups and downs. I've been having a lot of just not just trials and tribulations, but also pain and physical pain at that. I mean, I had pain in my shoulder and in my back. The universe is sending me messages through what I go through into how I can heal myself better, into how I can heal my audience better. And it's a really big process where I go through a lot of suffering, I go through a lot of pain, and I want to bring you the resonant messages from that process, but also I want to show you the process so that you can have a better understanding of who I am, and maybe even show you that you're not alone in your struggles. I've broken a lot of glasses. I've broken a lot of things from the house. I've broken a lot of promises. I've broken a lot of relationships with people, and I've had a lot of temper tantrums. I have not looked pretty, and a lot of what I know is from those processes happening and undergoing. So it's not this picture perfect or grid perfect image that is how I got where I am today. It's real, and it's amazing to say the least, because I can grow from that. I'm willing to literally let these things be my teachers. For instance, I've learned, the dark side of magic is a part of our consciousness that we can reclaim. It's not something that we can throw a party because we cursed someone successfully. That's not a victory for me, and I don't think there is a victory anymore. I don't see in terms of like victory or losing anything. I don't believe in that. I believe that our ego has a lot of structure, which I've mentioned in one of my other videos, which I'll post in the description of this one. But our ego has a very false view of the world and a very removed view of the world. Our ego will literally tell you something is true when it is not, and a lot of things work that way. So when in regards to specifically anything that may be in front of us, it could give us literally a removed view of whatever it is. And we could have even ego judgments of ego judgments, and judgments only separate us from, like, literally who and what we are. And for example, like, I have been judging my channel. I've been judging, how well are you doing by how many likes, or how much attention are you getting? And even though I haven't been saying that, I literally don't judge my channel by that. I am wrong. I've subconsciously been judging my channel in that way. And it's been very damaging to myself, my image, my self-image, because I haven't been existing from my soul, which says, wow, you would be doing this anyway. It's just who you are. It's not about the response. It's not about the response at all. It's about what do you feel to do, and are you doing that? And that's very important to note. So, for instance, if you're a dark witch, or if you're a grid witch, which I call them grid witches, or basically witches who literally just take information they find on the internet, take information that their friend tells them, and they just kind of wield that information like it's truth. They're very removed from their soul. They're very removed from what they know in their heart is right, or what they know in their heart is accurate, or any kind of awareness whatsoever. And they try to do said magic, or do said thing that, even if they're not a witch, do said thing that was told to them. They're doing something productive, or they're doing something useful, and they think that they're being helpful in the world by cursing their neighbor or cursing somebody, and their ego tells them that, oh, well, this is great, you're doing something wonderful. It's a misconception. A lot of the time these false messages come up, like, oh, well, you're doing so well because you're taking your power back, you're making them suffer, you're winning the game, when in reality, all you're doing is you're interacting with an ego consciousness, which is a consciousness that is removed from its source. And in so doing, you also remove yourself from your own source. You're literally another way to disrupt or destroy the grid's plan, or that which exists outside of its own source or purpose, which only, let's face it, happens when we're born, that we know that our actual purpose is to exist in this world as our resonant self, that which we can all feel is ourselves, without having to do anything, without having to literally just wake up in the morning. That's who we are. But the grid and our ego makes it seem like we have to exist in a state of control. A lot of control that the grid and that the darkness has over people is that they get us to believe that we have to respond to what they do at all. And that's just not the case. If we're living in resonance, if we're living in true accordance with our souls, we would be moving and existing in a state of intuition and in a state of truth frequency, which is outside of the realm of the game for which they created our response. And if they have any response whatsoever in their mind, that they've won. A lot of narcissism works in this way, where unfortunately they can't live as themselves, so they're going to try to get you to not live as yourself with them. But also, in addition, they want to feel superior in whatever way that game makes them feel superior. So you really don't have to live. You really don't have to live that way. You really don't have to live in response to their game or their lie that they have made for themselves. You also don't have to respond to the grid, which has us live in a certain way, which has us make money in a certain way, and that's how it gains its power. And it's like their hoops of fire is just not going to work anymore, just because I don't have to jump through their hoops. I can exist the way that I was meant to exist, the way nature intended us to exist. Regardless of what they've done to the earth, regardless of what they've done to our laws, regardless of what they've done to make us respond to them in any kind of certain way. So the presence of play is something that I've wanted to talk to you all about, Play, and it's something that we've done as children, and it's something that we do when we inherently exist from our soul, and that I would consider the truth frequency. Play happens when we are in touch with the universe, and when we lose our sense of control entirely. Once we lose our sense of control, we become a part of that which is all around us all the time, and that is the truth frequency. So we will exist as the rocks exist, we will exist as the air exists, we will exist as the animals exist, and in doing so we will understand them in the same way that they understand themselves. Because nature, because animals exist, rocks exist, stars exist, the way our soul exists. I think one of the best things that's ever happened to me is I let myself go lately. I've let myself explore all of those dangerous things that I thought would, be such a bad thing for me, and I learned not to judge myself, and that has brought me back into a truth frequency that has brought me into the stability of the truth itself. And it all started with a spell. I strengthened a spell where it was a clarity spell, and it brought me to a state of being where I realized that I was judging myself pretty harshly on a daily basis, pretty much about everything. And I've realized that if I don't include who I actually am in my channel, what am I doing on my channel? I'm just making another grid video. But that type of honesty, I think, is going to be very helpful in this day and age, when we can share our downfalls just as much as we can share what we find is the final answer. I think people need to see more and more of these videos that show everyone that imperfection, and showing them how you got to the answer is just as important as the answer itself. And it's one of those things where I've let myself smoke recently. I've let myself drink and smoke myself into a state of relaxation, and I've let go of the judgments about it, and I've realized that the judgments themselves were what was causing me to not really see my life clearly. It was seeing my life through eyes of removal, and in terms of making assumptions up and living from that part of my mind is really what I realized I was doing. So instead of living from my mind, I live from my soul. And that's going to get me away from judging others, because let's face it, when we judge others, we're only removing ourselves from the truth frequency. And I think there's a big sense of regret or response and removal that happens when we live from our heads rather than from our soul. And it's a matter of where for me. So truth exists when we let ourselves exist from a state that is not made from a structure in our minds. So instead, we're existing from a deeper state than that, which is how everything else exists. It's inherent, and it's a state that we can feel, not just a state of being that we have an interaction with. So instead of being in an opinion state or in a removal state which we feel dissatisfied, we're existing from a state which is deeper than satisfaction or dissatisfaction, response or response, creation or response, a game or a construct. It's an existence where we're only existing as energy. We're only existing as that which is beyond an opinion, that which is beyond a structure. And we're existing from the origin of creation itself, which is only something we can feel, and is only something that can satisfy us, versus a story which most of the time dissatisfies us and makes us feel like we're not enough, or makes us feel like we're too much, or makes us feel like we're not doing enough, or makes us feel like we're doing too much. And it's when we're in a state of feeling like that, if we're in a state of experience and we're in a state of intuition, we're also in a state of knowingness, which is only from being so grounded in nature, so grounded in ourselves, that we literally only exist from that which we are. And that is a satisfaction that we could only have because we live from beyond a structure or beyond a concept. And in doing so, we can only live from a state of satisfaction, which is because we have no judgments of things at that point. We don't exist from any kind of place that removes us from the truth itself. So basically, my biggest point would be judgment is not something that affects anyone else but ourselves, because it only removes us from our own intuitive or truthful relationships, and instead it makes us live from, or makes us exist from, or makes us experience life from a place that is not ourselves inherently, but from a place of structure, or a place that is only a game. And we're not in a state of truth at that point. We're in a state of either denial or a state of conquering, which is another type of energy, that can remove us from actuality. And we're not conquering anything, we're just claiming that we're conquering something. Just because we put a flag in something doesn't mean we own it. It's just a game, and it's just something that we say so that we feel better because we're completely dissatisfied with the state at which we would live as otherwise, which is it's a matter of place for me. So we would exist from our heart space, and we would be completely satisfied if we didn't remove ourselves with a structure or with a game where we instead of living from our soul or living from the truth inherently, we would exist from a state of dissatisfaction or a state of call and response, which is all about what the grid is about. Let's face it. They have a call, which is, whatever it is, which is probably like, oh, well, we have this law which you have to abide by, or we have this political statement that you have to talk about, or you have to answer to me when I'm talking to you type mentality. And it's all about your response to it. So if we don't give our power to it, which is something also that I mentioned in literally the first video I've ever made, like a corporation, for example, if you don't give your money to it, you're not giving your power to it, you're not giving your approval to it. The same thing goes for political statements or stances. The same thing goes for all kinds of things in life where we're just not giving our power to it because we're not having the same relationship with it, because we're not existing from the same place that it exists from. Anytime we have any kind of removal from anything, it's because we exist from a place within our bodies that we were never meant to exist from. And we were only meant to exist from our soul. We were never meant to exist from a political stance. We were never meant to exist from an opinion or a law. We were only meant to exist from a state of feeling or a state of intuition where we feel like ourselves, where we feel satisfied. And that place doesn't need any kind of scarcity-based relationships or relationships that supposedly require us to be a certain way in order to feel satisfied, in order to feel like we have any kind of legitimacy in the world. I'll put it that way. We don't really need those things to feel like ourselves. We only need the state of being in which we feel like ourselves, which is what we had before any of those things ever existed. So doubt is one of those things I also wanted to talk about. Doubt as in, a lot of what our mainstream society is based upon, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of doubt of others, a lot of doubt of magical abilities, a lot of doubt in general. And doubt is something that gives itself away if you pay attention closely, I've noticed. So just because you have doubt about one thing, if you don't expand that doubt onto other things, it won't be there. So it gives itself away, really. So if you doubt yourself magically, for example, like, oh, I can't heal my back. If you don't expand that to, well, I can't do anything else if I can't heal my back, it only exists for that one thing. So as I said, it gives itself away. Where it's just kind of a removal relationship where it gets you from truly knowing that you can, in fact, heal your back, And it only does that because it exists. It exists as a structure, which is outside of the truth. It gets you to exist from another place within your body. It gets you to exist from your mind, which is not where we were intended to exist from. Instead of existing from our minds, we should be honestly existing from our nervous system, which is a place of feeling, which is a place of intuition, which is a place of truly knowing the truth, truly knowing and understanding the truth. And it's the only place we could ever know where the truth actually exists. In my experience, I think the biggest thing that society has done, or the grid, or the dark side, which has locked away a lot of our consciousness into it, says about our experience, is it's gotten us to remove ourselves from our environment. And our environment is a key, essential piece into the mystical and magical, but also complete version of ourselves, where it's the outer self. We are the micro version of ourselves, and our environment is the macro version of ourselves. If we find the truth within our environment, we will also find that truth within ourselves. It's not any kind of separation there. So, for instance, when we go into a mall, we have to buy something or whatever, there's a lot of illusions there. There's a lot of illusions where we have to walk into a mall, we have to get out of nature, they put us into a box, literally. A lot of buildings are made into the shape of boxes, a lot of removal from our environment, a lot of removal from, let's face it, we go into the woods, we have this very beautiful feeling of coming home to ourselves, a very beautiful feeling of being hugged or being seen as ourselves, feeling safe in our nervous system, and feeling very loved and cared for by an exterior force. At least that's the experience that I've had from my environment in nature. They change your environment to become a city environment, or to become like an environment where we've been removed from nature in a lot of ways. So instead, we can return back to the truth frequency, that which is one with nature and creation, the macro and the micro as one, the completion of self. And we can realize that we also have the powers of nature, because we ourselves exist from the same place it exists from. And that is the only satisfaction we could ever know, is existing from a place deeper than our own egos or our own dissatisfying creative process, which is any kind of structure that we can make in front of what already exists. So if we walk into a city or a mall, for example, we're seeing all these things for sale, we're seeing all these things that we need to buy, we're seeing all of these new trends and these new fashions and these people that have opinions, and we have to answer to them. So it's all a lot of confusing messages of removal from our own truth frequency, which is our own intuition. If we let go, and this is the key for me as far as what I've learned recently, if we let go of the judgments of others, if we actually let go of them, we're also letting go of our own judgments. In order for us to know that it's a judgment that comes from outside of us, we also have to have a judgment about that person. And that, in essence, is what removes us, is our own judgment. Not the judgment of those outside of us, but our own judgments is the only thing that can remove us, is our own judgments. and from the truth itself inherently. There are many different facets to the truth, so every one of us is a walking, talking, different facet of truth. So if anyone tries to get you to see the world in a way that doesn't feel right, or that doesn't feel like it comes from truth, then it's only a manipulative lie to you, even if it wasn't intended to be by them. So the only doorway to the truth comes from ourselves. The doorway to the truth can only come from a place that is within us, not any place outside of us. My last message would be, honestly, it's not about how hard we work. It's not about how much we do. It's about how much we return home to ourselves, which is the frequency of nature, which is the frequency of that which the grid tries to distract us from. And that is the same feeling in our nervous system, the same feeling that we feel when we are at peace, when we feel satisfied, when we feel we are at play, because play is the presence of our soul. It's about returning home to yourself. It's about returning home to nature and answering the call of the truth, and not falling for the game or falling for any kind of lies that would remove us from that calling, that inner calling within ourselves. As life is not a game. All of my products and services are listed in the link tree that I have provided in the description of this video.